Welcome, everybody. This is the Food, Fitness, Finance Fun Blab, and my name is Kirsten. I am your host, and every week I am going to bring you an expert in one of those topics, either food, fitness, finance, or fun, to help you live your best life possible. So today we are going to be talking about fitness, and we're going to be talking about one of my very favorite subjects, which is triathlon, with one of my very favorite people on the planet, my friend, Wendy Mader. So, hi, Wendy.
Hi.
Yay. So it took us a while to get this worked out. So if you have to leave early, I will post the recording so that you can see all the rest of the stuff, because we have some awesome questions and awesome information we're going to be giving you guys today. But before we get started, I want to go ahead and read you guys a little bit more about Wendy, and she'll be talking to you a little bit more detail about her journey and her story. But I wanted to give you just some kind of an overview of who she is by reading her bio. So Wendy is the co-founder and owner of T2 Coaching, and she has made a lifelong commitment to fitness, sports, coaching, and triathlon. From her youth as a competitive swimmer to her current career in the fitness industry, her dedication shines. Wendy is a former collegiate swimmer and has 20 years experience in triathlon, including—
Now 25.
Oh my gosh, you need to update your bio, Wendy. 25, including 13 Ironmans. Is that the right amount?
15.
15 Ironmans. She is the head coach for— you're not— I should have read this before because I actually know Wendy. She's not the head coach anymore for the high school swimming. But the three things I did want to mention that are really important, especially in what we're going to be talking about today, is Wendy is a level 2 USAT certified coach, which is awesome. And she has been to Hawaii 7 times?
8
times. And 1 year in 2008, she won overall female amateur in the entire Ironman World Championships in Kona. So this girl knows what she's doing and knows what she's talking about. So we do have some questions that I've gathered from some people who want to know stuff about triathlon, but we're going to get to that in a minute. What I would love first, Wendy, is for you to just talk to us about why you started triathlon and your journey over the past 25 years in triathlon, what that has looked like.
25 years is a long time. I've never done anything for 25 years in my life. And first of all, thank you for having me here. This is exciting. I have a lot of experience to share, and there's a lot of avenues we can go with questions. So hopefully we'll stick to the point. But 25 years ago, in June, it'll be exactly 25 years, I did a team triathlon. I was just the swimmer. I did a half-mile swim, and I had a teammate do the 12-mile bike and a teammate do the 4.5-mile run. And it was just after my freshman year of college swimming. And I had never really heard of triathlon. Even though my mom did triathlon, I really didn't know what she was doing because I was so young. So I did this team triathlon, dominated the half-mile swim. It was my first open water swim ever, and kind of freaky, kind of icky. It was in Michigan. And I just sat and watched the rest. And I thought, okay, the next year I'm going to do the whole thing. And like I said, it was a half-mile swim, a 12-mile bike, and a 4.5-mile run. So a year later, I had a $200 mountain bike that I toured around in town. I was in college. I had some experience running track in high school, and I swam since the age of 4. So I just swam, biked, and ran a lot. I didn't know how to train. I just did it. And then I did the sprint distance triathlon, and I won my age group. I got 12th overall women, and then won my age group. So I was hooked up to the Ann Arbor cycling team, and they helped me buy a bike. So I got my first road bike, and really the rest is history. 1992 was when I started, and there really wasn't a lot of information out there when I started. So I kind of learned it all on my own. I really didn't understand training. I just liked to do it, and it kind of got me through. And then in 1997, I did qualify for my first Ironman, which happened to be in Hawaii, which happened to be my first marathon. And I finished 10th in my age group. So again, that got me on the path of doing Ironman over the years. So should I say more about that?
Yeah. What did you do? So you were just naturally, I mean, your first long race you qualified for Kona. So you were
Um,
not,
yeah, I
you
mean,
were
I started when I was 19 years old, and my age group wasn't 19, wasn't even part of an age group. Back then, the age group started at age 20. So starting at age 19 was really young. I actually did qualify for Kona in 1995, but I turned the slot down. Or maybe it was 1993, and I actually didn't know what Kona was, and I actually turned the
so
slot down.
you were like, whatever.
I didn't know. And I turned it down because I was a collegiate swimmer and I didn't want to risk losing my scholarship in college. So It was at that age 22 that I decided, okay, I want to go when I'm 24. So I moved out to Colorado in 1995 for 300 Days of Sun. And I ended up qualifying at a race called Desert Sun, half Ironman in Grand Junction, Colorado. And like I said, I crossed the finish line and I cramped and I'm like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to double this distance. But of course I qualified. I couldn't turn the slot down. I was 24. And back then.
Because you knew what it was by then.
Yeah, exactly. So qualified, went to Kona, had a great experience. Unfortunately, but fortunately, I got, I was the fittest of my life. I didn't want to stop training, came back for Kona. Didn't stop training, didn't take a break, didn't recover. And I ended up getting really sick. For about another year, I was really, 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 really sick, like a chronic fatigue syndrome sick, because I didn't know how to recover. I didn't know anything about nutrition. And so it was really that moment that I decided kind of started my path towards coaching, because I had to read every book of nutrition, homeopathic medicine, training, because I never wanted to go through that sick experience again. And I had to figure out why I was into the sport. So in 1998 kind of was my year to get healthy again. And then I knew, because I did so well in Kona, that I wanted to go back. But it took me a few years to get there again, because, again, I didn't know how to train. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a coach. I had sicknesses. I had to go through sickness and illness and injury and all that to kind of figure it out. And I didn't qualify again until 2003, actually. I didn't go back until 2003. And then I went back. It took me till 2008. I think I had done 5 Ironmans before I said, okay, I want to go back and win this damn thing. And I went back in 2008 and won it. But there was a lot that happened with my knowledge to kind of figure out what I needed to do to get to that level. I knew I had what it took to get to that level. I just didn't know how to get there.
Right. Well, perfect. Because that's actually what makes you such a great coach, is that you had to learn by experience over 20 years before you really found, or 18 years until you really found what worked for you. And now that you know, it's easier to coach other people on it.
Totally. I mean, any athlete that I've ever coached, I've had every injury. I've been sick. I know I don't diagnose anything, but I've been there, done that. I know how to treat it. And I know the signs and symptoms. I know what they need to do to overcome any downsides or anything that they're struggling with. I know, because I'm still the athlete experiencing it. I'm the athlete coach. So the amount that I can relate to athletes is huge.
Right. And that's huge in coaching, because people want somebody that that understands what they're going through. Exactly.
So I think when people ask me what sets you apart from other coaches, is that I am the athlete with 25 years experience, and I have 24 more years of experience I'm going to get. I'm still doing it. That's the great thing about triathlon, is you can do sprint distance, Olympic, half full. You can focus on swimming. You can focus on biking. You can focus on running. There's no reason to get bored or burned out, because there's so many different avenues you can take with triathlon, not just Ironman.
Right. Yeah. I can't remember if we were talking about this last time we talked or the time before, but I thought I remember somebody telling me they were bored of something, and we were both like, how could they be bored? There's like so much to experience and do, and so many avenues that you can take in triathlon, that it should never be boring.
No, it's definitely a lifestyle. Right. And if you don't like the lifestyle, you don't have to do it. To me, I chose the lifestyle. I made a career out of my passion and my hobby.
Right. Good. Which is something that everybody aspires. Well, almost everybody aspires to do.
Right.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, it's funny because I kind of put out there that I was going to interview somebody who's, a coach and a, elite athlete. And the questions I got, most of them were about nutrition. So I think people really are kind of stuck on their nutrition. But before we go into that, because that's, that could be like a 3-hour thing. Exactly. On nutrition alone. Before we go into that, I wanted to just ask you, since you are a coach, and there's a lot of people who I hear they're like, oh, do I need a coach? Why do I need a coach? When would I need a coach? So who needs a coach? What type of triathlete needs a coach?
Well, my target demographic is the first-time triathlete, someone who's never done it. That's how I define a first-time triathlete, the beginner who's never done it and who has to seek out the education. So my coaching is based on education. I like to educate the athletes to be able to hold themselves accountable and to really understand what they're doing. So if you're a very beginner into the sport and you've never done it, hiring a coach is the way to go because there's so much information out there. It can get very overwhelming. And a lot of times coaches kind of say the same thing, but in a different way. So developing that relationship with an athlete is really what coaching is. You're developing the relationship and you're holding that athlete accountable. That's why people hire coaches, is so they can have someone on their journey with them. I also really tailor towards the beginner intermediate Ironman athlete. So the Ironman athlete who's done an Ironman, but they want to get better. How do they get better? Or that triathlete who has a lot of experience who is doing an Ironman for the first time. So I think any athlete who needs that partner, not the spouse, not the best friend, not the brother or sister, but they need that person who's a little bit not biased to go along their journey with them so that athlete can share their ups and downs, because there's so much emotion that goes into training and racing, especially racing, pre-race, post-race, during race, that sometimes your partner, spouse doesn't really get it, but your coach does. And having that accountability partner, which is what your coach is really good to have. So I think, really everyone should have a coach. I really wish I had one when I started, but I am the coach I am today because I figured it all out on my own. Right. So everything happens for a reason. I think if I had a coach early on, I'd be at the Olympic Training Center. I would have went to the Olympics. I would have qualified for Ironman way earlier than I would have, but it wouldn't have made me the coach that I am today.
Right. Right. Because a lot of athletes actually, when they retire from triathlon, become coaches, but they've had a coach their whole career.
Exactly. And so pros have coaches.
They have a totally different experience than what you had. Like you said, you had to figure it out on your own, and that's what's made you the coach you are.
Exactly.
So before we get into specifics, because I know I always hear, there's a lot of blogs out there. There's a lot of magazine articles. Everyone always wants to know what the top athletes are doing for training and eating and wearing. And, that's why athletes are sponsored, because people are going to look at you and say, well, I want to wear the shoes you wear because you're a fast runner, or I want to use the bike you use because you're a fast cyclist. So we do want to hear some specifics, because that's what people want to know. But I also know that you agree with me in saying that everyone is so different. And the best thing to do is, if you like something Wendy says, or if you like something your friend says who's also a fast runner, try it out, see how it works for you, and then adapt it so it fits into what your goals are and how your body is, how, we're all so different.
And you just said something. Why does someone need a coach? So they can focus on their program based on their fitness, based on their life schedule. All too often people say, oh, my best friend is doing this long run. My other friend is doing this long bike. Ooh, I want to join a master's group. I want to join the running club. I want to join the cycling club. And those people tend to get the most injured and the most overtrained because they're not following their personalized plan based on their current fitness. That is really the number one reason someone should seek out guidance from a coach.
Right. Well, and also, like you just said, if you start, so this is a perfect example. On Wednesdays, I run with a friend of mine, and after we swim, and a couple other people from the swim group have said, oh, we want to run with you guys. So yesterday, no one did, but one of the girls that was going to run with us, I asked her, I said, oh, are you running with us today? And she was like, oh, I want to, but I better not because I decided to follow a plan and I should probably follow the plan. And I said, yeah, that's why you have a plan, because if she's the type of person who wants to run for social or run with people, she might have us running on Wednesdays, her other friend running on Thursday, her other friend runs on Friday. She wants to run with everything. Next thing you know, she has a stress fracture because she just ran every day.
I mean, that's how I used to train when I started 25 years ago. I'd pull out a workout from a Runner's World. I'd pull out a workout from a cycling magazine. I'd put it in a scrapbook. I still have all that. I'd open it up. Ooh, which workout do I want to do today? I didn't know what to do. No one told me anything.
Right. And then you probably did your swims from college, which were like, 10,000
meters.
And
you know what? The best part about that, what I did was I'm still here 25 years later. So I'm one of the lucky ones that is still doing this 25 years later from all the mistakes I made.
Well, just from knowing you, I would say you're not lucky. You're smart and you listen to your heart, because somebody wanted to know about your schedule, your periodization, when you recover, how many days a week do you work out? And I kind of laughed just because I know you and I know you listen to your body really well. And if you don't feel like you need a day off, you don't take a day off.
Right. And I coach a beginner different than I coach an elite athlete. They're totally not completely the same. No one will ever be like me. Don't even try to be, because you won't be like me. Because if someone's trying to be like me, I will do something completely out of their mind that they're not like me, because I'm a unique person.
Right.
So let's get on the questions. Okay. I forgot.
Yeah, let's get to a couple questions. Let's talk just for a few minutes about that. Like, as far as when you put your training together, and you don't need to go into detail, just in general, kind of how do you periodize your year, your month, your week, and talk a little bit about rest days and how many days.
Well, I mean, general periodization plan is, the most common structure, and it's changed. You can do reverse periodization, you can do block training. There's different models now, but generally you have this off season, which happens in like the fall, winter. And then after you take some time off, no one really takes time off anymore. So I like to call it the out of season phase. You jump into what's called a general preparation phase, which is usually, 8 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks, depending on who you are. And during that general preparation, you're preparing your body to train. And I follow this, but mine is probably way above and beyond someone else's general preparation. So what my focus is during the general preparation, it's a lot of core, strengthening the area between my shoulders and my hips. It's a lot of dynamic movements, flexibility, functional strength training. While I'm doing that, I usually choose my sport, running. I usually stick with running. I never take a break from running. And so that's my primary thing during my general preparation. Sometimes I'll get out for a ride, jump on my trainer. It just depends on the year, and it depends on what my focuses are. And then from that general preparation, you move into what's called specific preparation, which is more specific to, okay, let's get rid of the kind of the strength core stuff. Let's maintain it, but let's not focus on it as much. And let's move into more biking, swimming, more of a triathlon training program that's specific. That's why it's called specific preparation. And during that phase, I'm starting to really get into frequency, duration, and intensity leading up to my race. Again, that phase can be anywhere between 8 and 16 weeks. A lot of people know this preparation as kind of the base phase. How I monitor intensities based on a series of time trials, swim, bike, and run time trial with my heart rate and or power meter. So I gauge intensity doing a fitness test, and that's how I coach athletes. And then once you kind of move into the competition phase is usually about 8 to 12 weeks out from my most important race is when I start doing local competitions, less important races, and test out my training. Let's see if what I've been doing is working. And let's get me up to that race intensity during that race specific phase. And then I go through a series of, like for an Ironman, I'm really focused on Ironman specific intensity during that race race specific training phase. And so I get ready for my Ironman. If I wasn't doing an Ironman and I was just doing a marathon, I would do marathon specific training or sprint distance specific training. So I'm really mentally, physically ready to do my race. I know for me, because I've been doing it long enough, I know exactly what the outcome's going to be because of my training. I'm very confident, and I try to get my athletes prepared and confident that they know exactly what the outcome is going to be of their race. It kind of leads to less anxiety when they're that prepared. And then, of course, things happen. You got to juggle. You got to say, okay, I missed a day, I missed a week because of travel, sickness, family stuff. So then the art of coaching is having that coach kind of juggle your life schedule and kind of fitting your training around the schedule. And that's why it's so individual and so specific to each person. Did that answer the question?
Right. Yeah, that's great. And actually, while you were talking, a question came in that I think is a great question to answer. We can both answer it. He says, have you guys ever encountered health problems as a direct repercussion of your intense training schedule? And I would say, my kind of like Wendy talked about it when she was first talking, when I did my first Ironman, I was very clueless and I took a training plan out of a book. But what I did was if I missed a workout, I would just make it up later in the week. And so it was based on a block where it was 3 weeks of building, 1 week of recovery. And so what I would do is anytime I missed a training, and I was working like 60 hours a week. So I missed, a few long workouts a week. I would just write them all down. And then in my recovery week where I only had like 10 or 12 hours of workouts, I would just add all those in because I had all this time. And I was like, oh, this is great. So basically I trained, 5 months or whatever it was with no rest at all. And I was working a lot. So right after my first Ironman, I got super sick. Like Wendy was talking about, I had strep throat, I had an ear infection. I mean, and this all just was, I would say about a week after I finished the Ironman, just all these things. And then I ended up with a walking pneumonia. And I was sick for about 6 months nonstop. And I know it was a direct result of overtraining.
Right. And only really health. And I'm lucky because it was just an overtraining thing happened after my first Ironman in 1997, but I learned from it. And and so I've had, like I mentioned, I've had a lot of different injuries. I haven't been injured since 2010 because I started working on my core, but no, I've never had any health issues due to my training. And I've been doing this for 25 years. Over the years, I've learned what nutrition works for me. I've learned what kind of recovery works for me. I mean, I've just learned a lot. You 25 years later, still doing it. You bet. I've overcome a lot of things that could have potentially happened, but because this is my lifestyle and I don't want anything to ever happen to me where I am where I was in 1997. I don't want that to ever happen. So I won't, because of my education and my constant learning of what's happened to other people and how they've overcome something.
Right. Yeah. And I actually, speaking of injuries, I was getting quite a few injuries. And so I was barely running because I was afraid. I was like, I'm going to keep getting injured. But I learned from every single injury. And when I decided to start swimming more. And so I always kick with fins. I do a lot of breaststroke kick. I do a lot of things that counteract the running and biking. And I haven't been injured in the last 5 years. And I've increased my running exponentially, increased my biking. And the same thing. Like, so my recovery, what I've learned about recovery is helping me. So I haven't been injured either. And mine is swimming. Like, that's how I do a lot of my
and
recovery.
Mine is core. Kirsten knows I'm into programs like Insanity, Beachbody programs. As soon as I'm feeling something achy, usually in my hips, I start doing my core stuff and it goes away. So, I mean, I figured out something that works for me. And so I apply what works for me with other athletes. I just, it's like I share what works for me, and usually it's pretty much going to work for anyone.
Well, it's true, because I mean, if you read any research on mobility and core strength and, flexibility and all that, I mean, that's what they all talk about, is you've got to train your core and keep it strong. It's the motor that affects the rest of your body. So speaking of, I did have a couple people want to know about what kind of things you do for recovery. Do you get massage? Do you, what other things do you do?
And this is daunting to people. My recovery is nutrition and sleep. I get maybe 3 massages a year. I'm not a massage person. I happen to work at a health club. So there's a foam roller and there's this thing called an inversion table. It's called the teeter. That really stretches me out, but I'm not necessarily on a stretching protocol. I do more of that kind of stretching core work in my general preparation period, but I'm not a year-round person that stretches. When I'm feeling something, maybe that's when I go get a massage. But sleep and nutrition, that's really it for me. I did actually a whole article. I questioned people about their best recovery practices and did a big blog and article about it. And that's great. The boots, those big Nomattack boots people swear by, certain recovery blends of drinks, of product. But to me, it's just a lifestyle of good nutrition, plant-based nutrition in my case. That's just my general nutrition practice. And I sleep well at night.
Yep.
And I recover. When I don't recover, it's because I didn't get enough sleep.
I'm 100% there. And one more question before we talk about nutrition, because somebody just asked and we're talking about it, is sleep. So they wanted to know, do you ever have issues sleeping? Do you ever find it hard to sleep because of everything you do, or is it easy?
No, the only times I've ever had sleep issues was when I had a lot going on in my life, and there was just a variety of life stress that we all go through. When there's just financial stress, stuff like that. That's the only time I've ever had sleep issues. But so no, but lack of sleep is like heavy training load and not sleeping. That's a sign of overtraining. And I'm sure that happened to me way, 25 years ago, but I didn't know it. And so I would say no. Right now I don't. I get my sleep at night. It's great.
Oh, sleep is awesome. I'm a sleeper. All right. So let's talk a little bit about nutrition. And I want to wrap it up in about 10 minutes, so we won't get too in depth because, again, nutrition is something we could talk about for years. But Joey, stop. Joey wanted to chime in. So why don't you just kind of go over, you said, your general plant-based diet. Why don't you walk us through your not your race nutrition, but just your general everyday nutrition? Like what do you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner on just a regular training day? And then during your training?
Nutrition has been something that I've struggled with a lot. Okay. Until I went plant-based. The reason I chose plant-based was really in 2008, 3 months before I won the Ironman World Championship. I wanted to cut cheese out of my diet and see if I could get as lean as I could get. And the only way for me personally to do that was to say I'm vegan. Didn't really know what vegan was. I just knew they didn't eat animal products and I was eating too much cheese. cut cheese out. I dropped 10 pounds just like that. It melted off my body. I had the race of my life. So I knew that style of eating was really good for my body and my mind. And then I kind of switched focuses because I like to try, before I completely committed to plant-based, I like to try different things in case an athlete asks me. So I went actually complete opposite, and I did paleo for about 6 months. I had not eaten red meat in 20 years, and all of a sudden I'm obsessed with red meat. And it lasted 6 months. And then I'm like, okay, this isn't working for me. So I cut out all animal products except dairy. And then probably it wasn't till about 2011, 2012 that I was finally able to get the dairy out of my system and be plant-based vegan athlete. And that just works good for me. I love to cook now. So I think part of my struggle in the beginning was I didn't have variety, but now that I like to cook, it's really easy for me to get all the nutrition that my body needs. So a typical day for me would be, wake up, coffee, banana, peanut butter. And then I get my workouts in, usually in the mornings. And then after a workout, I'll have a recovery shake. It'll be usually almond milk and either Shakeology or this Aloha brand of protein that I like, but with other stuff in it. It could be veggies, it could be fruits, but it's just a different shake. So that, to me, that's part of my breakfast. So I kind of split my breakfast in two because I'm a morning workout person. I never work out on an empty stomach. That's just not how my body likes to do it. And then every 3 hours I'm eating. If I'm not, I'm cranky. So my lunch is always some sort of humongous salad, all the veggies. I'm a tofu tempeh eater. I'm not scared of soy. But that's I do have a higher soy intake because I love tofu and tempeh because I usually put that on my salad. I'm eating, kind of snacking on fruit most of the days. I'm snacking on veggies. Usually my mid-afternoon snack, it could be another shake, but it's usually veggies and hummus. I'm looking in my cupboard right now. Dinners are usually some sort of bean, quinoa, bean brown rice. If I hadn't had tofu or tempeh that day, I'm going to put that in with some sort of whole grain. Again, I'm looking in my cupboards.
Sweet potatoes. You love
sweet potatoes are probably one of my, if I was on a deserted island, I would not be without sweet potatoes. So I have my staples to what I eat. And like I said, I eat every 3 hours. I don't like being hungry, so I'm not going to let myself be hungry. I'm always prepared. I don't ever expect anyone to go above and beyond trying to cook dinner for me because I'm always prepared with my own thing. It's not a big deal to me. And I'm not against what you eat either. Like, to me, this is what works for me. And if it doesn't work for you, that's fine.
Yeah, it's funny. I have a friend who I was talking to him last night about nutrition and, or yesterday afternoon. And, the first thing he said, he's like, "Can I ask you a couple questions about nutrition?" I said, "Of course." And he said, "Just so you know, I'm not vegan." Well, he said vegetarian. He goes, "I'm not vegetarian." Right. I'm like, "That's okay. Most people aren't."
Right. Most athletes aren't. And one thing about, I have a plant-based recipe Facebook group that I share everything I make. I don't share a recipe unless I've made it. And because I've had this group going for 3 years, I don't really follow recipes anymore because I'm the one creating my own recipes because I've been cooking for so long. So that's another way to learn and get more educated about plant-based eating is through various Facebook groups. Kirsten has one. I have one. If you're interested in eating more plant-based, that's great. We have a lot of different websites that we like to share with others about eating plant-based. It's just something that works for me.
Awesome. So what about on your longer training days? Like if you were going to do a long bike or a long run, do you vary your general nutrition or do you keep that the same and then just add something during the long run?
My general nutrition is always the same. If I went on a 3-hour run or a 3-hour bike ride or something like that, I would just have I would have a bigger post-workout meal and a bigger kind of dinner that evening. General nutrition, I experiment with everything. Some years I like to just do my own dates and nuts and like real food, non-processed bar food. I found some Aloha bars that I like. I found some Vega bars that I like. Power Bar has these like applesauce type packets that I like that are plant-based. Cliff Bar has stuff. So I do like to use the nutrition that's out on a race course to practice with, because I don't like to carry my own stuff. And I can just eat anything and go. I have a really strong gut. I don't have GI issues, but I do like to make my own energy drink. I save the Gatorade for race day. I like Gatorade, but I'm not going to drink it until race day because I know it works for me, so I don't have to practice with it. Again, I'm looking in my cupboard to see what's in there. Because I eat before my long rides and long runs, I don't fuel a lot during them. Because I've been doing this for 25 years, I'm very efficient.
Your body's
very efficient. Yeah. But generally speaking, every 45 minutes, I'll put something in my mouth.
Okay. And so for race day nutrition, you said you just use what's on the course, so you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to
right. And it's usually for me, it's about 200 calories an hour.
Okay. And so I know you get this question a lot, and I get it a lot. But I want to ask it because somebody did ask it, and I'm sure people are wondering, with all your training and everything you do, how do you get enough protein to be an amazing athlete? I eat a lot of food. You are.
You know, when people ask me that question, that they're worried about their protein intake, the first thing I recommend is doing keeping track of it, like MyFitnessPal, going to talk to a registered dietitian. Find out exactly how much protein you get in your day. I think Americans in general are overloaded with protein, and I don't know anyone who really seriously is protein deficient. If you do, I'd like to meet them. I think people generally think they don't get enough protein because of the social media, because of articles, because of stuff they read. So I generally, because I used to track it, I haven't tracked it in a while, but I get about 15 to 18% of my diet comes from protein. I'm about that 60 to 65% carbohydrate more when I'm training, and I'm at that 20 to 25% fat. So I don't know if that added up to 100, but it's pretty close. And my protein sources are my protein supplement that comes in Shakeology or the Aloha. The beans, 1 cup of beans is about 16 grams of protein. And I could sometimes eat 2 in a day, depending on my training load. There's protein in tofu. There's protein in tempeh. There's protein in plants, vegetables. There's protein in whole grains. Quinoa is a big high source of protein, and that's a whole grain. So I think I just want to educate people to keep track and before they start overloading their bodies with protein, which is going to be excreted through your urine if you get too much, find out how much you are getting and how much do you need. Because I could tell you, if you walked around with me for a day, I didn't mention everything I eat, but I'm sure I'm in that over 100 grams of protein a day on plant-based eating.
Right. Yeah, I remember I posted on Facebook a picture of a veggie stir fry over brown rice. So it was a big pan of stir fry, like 10 different vegetables, and somebody said, "Where's the protein?" And every once in a while people do that. Like I had corn for lunch one day, and someone's like, "Well, where's the protein?" And I added it up. The corn that I ate, because I ate the whole bag of it, it was 16 grams of protein, and that's plenty for one meal when you're eating 6 meals a day. And then, and then the same thing with the stir fry. So I just go on MyFitnessPal. I add it up real quick just because I want to educate people as well. And it was 26 grams of protein in a veggie stir fry.
People are scared of carbohydrates, but they don't realize veggies are carbohydrates, fruits are carbohydrates. I think eating plant-based is all about eating non-processed foods. I'm not a processed food plant-based eater. I try to stick to whole grains, veggies, and fruits, and my lean plant-based proteins.
I'm not as good as you in that world. I'm getting better. But yeah, every food on the planet has some amount of carbs, protein, and fat. Every single food. That's what makes up a food, even if it's a trace amount. So it's interesting. So I'm glad that you said exactly what I believe too.
I think it's more to it than that. Yes.
More to it than the protein thing. So let me see. I just want to look through. And the thing I think that's awesome about you, Wendy, when I was reading what people wanted me to ask you, I love it because since I know you, I already knew kind of what you would say. But I think it's good for people to hear that. I think people get too wrapped up in like the specifics. Like somebody, said, aren't we supposed to get 1.8 kilograms of protein per pound of body weight? People are very they're obsessed with those specifics that in the long run over, a period of a week or a period of a month, it doesn't matter that one little specific thing, as long as you're doing everything in general the way you're supposed to be doing it.
It's the way that works for you. It's the lifestyle. It's the accumulation and stringing together, seconds, minutes, hours, days of changes and lifestyle.
Yeah.
Overeating one day doesn't mean you're fat. Undereating one day doesn't mean you lost weight. It's the accumulation. And I think a lot of athletes are into the weight loss, weight gain thing. So that's why I mentioned weight loss, weight gain. Eating good on one key training session, dialing it in one day, doesn't mean it worked. You want to string together good days of dialing in your race day nutrition. You want to string together good days of eating until it becomes a lifestyle that you're happy with. One weekend good or bad is not going to make or break your lifestyle. It's stringing together those days of health and wellness, sleep habits, hydration habits, nutrition habits, training habits, mixing up frequency, volume, and intensity. I mean, there's a lot involved.
Right. So before we sign off, I like to give people some actions. I like doing things and getting things done. So I wanted to know what 3 actions. So if you're talking to triathletes out there, and probably we're talking more to people who maybe not very beginners, but maybe not elite. We're like that, like you said, that beginning to intermediate phase. What 3 things could somebody do right now, whether it's changes in their lifestyle or going out and doing something specific? What 3 very simple, easy tasks could somebody do right now to make themselves a better triathlete?
1, set a SMART goal, something that's specific and measurable, number 1, and have a time frame. So set a goal and set an end date for your goal. Set an action plan for that goal. And that goal can be anything in your life. You got to start with the goal, create an action plan. And actually, before you create that action plan, know your starting point. Know your starting point with your fitness, your health, your wellness to help you create that action plan.
So pick a goal, something that is measurable, specific, and has an ending date, a time frame.
Know what your starting point is.
Know where you're at. And then from there, develop a plan to get to your
You
goal.
seek out advice of developing a plan. You find a plan online. And on that note, someone asked me, what are my 3 life lessons? And I just like, oh crap, I got to think about this. But my 3 life lessons have to do with live in the present, learn from the past, because that past will help you set an action plan for your future goal. So you pick out the future goal,
right?
Learn from the past, live in the present, and set that action plan to your future goal. Those are my 3 life lessons. At this point in my life, I'm still pretty young.
Perfect.
But I think it's very present to be present. I think it's very important to be present.
Right. Well, and you as a coach can help people with all those 3 actions, your philosophies. So where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
My website is www.t2coaching.com, small t, the number 2, coaching, all one word. And on the upper right corner, I believe, you can just contact me. My email is actually t2coachwendy@gmail.com. There's a contact form. You can contact me through there. I have everything on there. It's a nice website.
Okay. And if you guys just Google T2 coaching, Wendy will come up. So that's an easy way to remember it. And I'll post this video, the recording, because a couple people, since we did have some technical difficulties in the beginning, a couple people have said in the messages, hey, I got to go. I'll catch the recording. So I will post the recording. I'll post Wendy's information if you guys want to get in touch with her as well.
Thanks for joining, everyone.
Sound good? Awesome. You guys are awesome. Thank you, Wendy, so much. We'll definitely have you on again, because in my 4 categories of life, my food, fitness, finance, and fun, you're pretty much, you could be a guest on all of those podcasts. So we'll definitely have, or I guess it's not a podcast. I don't even know why I just said that.
It's also like just having one blab about nutrition and athletics, one blab about the mental aspect of training, which is so important. That could be a whole Q&A.
Right. That could be a whole
So there's a lot of topics that I'd like to continue on doing a blab about. This is a good intro. This is just switched on the surface.
As my husband said, whenever I'm like, oh, I'm doing my blab today, he's like, of course you are. That's what you do. Like, he just thinks it's funny that it's called a blab because he says I talk a lot. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. And Wendy, thank you so much. I will see you guys next week. Bye.